Hey everyone, welcome back to Sweet Yellow House. And today I have some projects for you. But before we get started with that, just to remind you, if you haven't subscribed, please do. It really does help me out. A lot of my projects end up on my website. It's a Squarespace. And if you want to check those out, go ahead. And on this channel, Inside Sweet Yellow House, I upload every Sunday. So back to the projects. These projects are projects that I've actually been avoiding for a long time, like these little leftover Christmas bells. These have been hanging on a coat rack in my studio for, I don't know, over a year now. So I didn't really know what I was going to do with these, but now I have kind of an idea. So I'm going to start off by just cutting them apart from the twine that was there and giving them a wipe down because they are pretty dirty from sitting around. Once I have that all done and wiped down, I'm going to take the little ringer at the bottom out just by kind of bending the holder there. Nothing major, you just kind of bend it aside. And then I'm going to take those outside and give them a spray with my Bare matte spray paint. I wasn't at this point kind of too sure what I was going to do. I had an idea, but I started out doing this and then kind of changed my mind. So I'm going to use some Sweet Pickins gloss finish top coat, and I'm going to do a coat on the outside of these bells and also on the inside. I am going to change over to this little silicone mat. I got this to work with my resin, but I figured out that when I have a project that I'm painting, if I put it on here instead of like a paper towel, it won't stick and I won't have to tear the paper towel off from there. So using this, because it is heat resistant, I can also use it when I'm drying a project as well. And I will link this below. I think it's actually like a dog water tray or something like that. Anyhow, I'm going to grab my Saint Germain IOD transfers and I'm just going to pick out this one page because it has a lot of florals. They're all connected, but I'm just going to cut them apart and use that to decorate these bells with. So just cutting some apart, making sure that I'm cutting slits in there where I can. That way it will kind of curve around that bell shape, and then using just my fingernail to kind of transfer that onto the to the bell. You want to make sure that your top coat is really dry before you start doing any of this. So once I have that transferred, I'm just kind of filling around there to make sure that everything is down really nice. And then I'm just going to proceed to do the same thing with the rest of the bells. Once I have those all done and everything is looking good, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and seal these with some Mod Podge dishwasher safe gloss. And I like this because actually my idea for these bells were to be like a garden gate bell or a screen door bell. We used to have a screen door and it had a bell on it just so you can hear those little pesky kids get out if you had to, if they were ones that were trying to sneak outside and play. So we always had a little bell on our screen door just so that we could hear it. So I'm just doing a coat of this dishwasher safe Mod Podge in gloss finish. And again, I'm doing the outside and also the inside of those bells. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these little ringers back in there. I'm sure there's some other name for it and I'm sure someone will tell me, but that's just what I'm going to call them. So I just put them back on. I didn't paint those black or anything. They kind of have like a dull gold color to them and that was okay with me. So once I get all of those put back on, then what I need to do is find some twine to put on the handle there. So I have this black twine, and I think this is book binding twine. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what it is. I'll link this down below as well if I can find it. I've had it for a while. So I'm just going to cut a piece of that. Um, Put it in half and then loop that into the handle and then tie a knot. Since this is twine, it will come unraveled, so I'm just using a lighter to heat the ends to melt it, and so that way they don't unravel from use. Be careful while you're doing this. You don't want to touch it while it's hot. Since it is melting, it will burn you, so please be careful. These little bells are just so cute. They came out so just adorable, and they actually look like they're hand painted. And I'm glad to have them finally off of that coat rack. This towel holder I got at the Goodwill, I believe, and literally this is the project, you have those where it's in your stash and every time you go out to get something, it falls on the floor and you just think to yourself, what am I going to do with that? I need to get it out of here. So today's the day. I finally decided that I wasn't going to give up on it and I was just going to do something with it. Um, and I wasn't going to let myself out of it. So I'm going to start off by just sanding it because it had kind of a glossy, really slick finish to it, and then wiping it back. And I'm going to use this Alchemy chalk paint, limestone chalk paint, and the color is rosemary. This is a new color for me and I really like it. Um, so I'm just going to do that and give it a good coat over the whole thing and make sure that I have full coverage. Going into this, I realized that I'm going to need another coat. It's covering really well, but I have a couple of spots that need that extra coverage. So I realized that once I'm kind of handling this, that one of the sides is a little bit loose. So I'm going to turn that over and using some type on wood glue, I'm just going to insert some glue into the back area where you can kind of see where it's held on with some really like, I don't think they're nails. Maybe they're like staple type heavy duty staples. So I'm just going to put some glue in there to get it to hold a little bit better. Once that glue's dry and everything is secure, I just go back in and start painting again. I was kind of conflicted about painting this because I didn't really know if by use it was going to chip off. So that's why I'm kind of going at it really heavy, doing some really good coats on there and making sure everything is dry between coats. Once I have that all done, I want it to look very vintage, so I'm going for the classic crackle medium from Pentart and using a step one. I'm going to start with that. I'm just going to do a really good coat all over this paper towel holder. I'm not going to do the back because that's going to be up against the wall. It's made to screw into a wall. It's not like a standalone. Once I have that coat on there, I'm just going to let it dry. I just let it sit up overnight. I came back the next day and uh, applied part two of that. This part two is a lot thinner than part one is, so this goes on a little bit easier. You don't have to kind of really force it around as much as you do part one. So I just applied that all over except for the back again, and I am going to use my embossing gun with this coat, mainly because this coat is actually a lot thinner, like I said, and it dries a lot quicker. So once I have that all done, I'm grabbing my dark wax from DIY, and I forgot to start my camera when I started that. So, but you get the gist. I'm picking it up here. I'm using a really soft brush and a swirling motion to make sure that I get that wax into all of those little crackle um, indents in there. So once I have that all done, just a paper towel, I'm just kind of burnishing that in, making sure that it's getting in everywhere. I will say that at first I didn't see much crackle happening, but the crackle on this is very different than the crackle from the fine line crackle. The fine line crackle actually is very much like further apart. It's very distinguished. This almost has like, I don't know, like an alligator type crackle, if that's the term for it. It's very small, very fine, and you don't really catch it until you really take a good look at it. So it did add some really great texture to it, made the paper towel holder look very vintage, and if you do look at it, you can see the crackle on there. And I am so happy to have this out of my stash so I can stop dropping it all over the floor and on my feet every time I go in to look for a project to do. So this little swivel caddy I got at a Goodwill, I believe, over a year ago, maybe. And I picked it up. It was in good shape, but it had been dropped a few times because, again, I just kind of avoided it. The thing that I was avoiding on it was all the little compartments and painting that. So I'm going to start off by taking off the bottom part of it just so that I can get in and paint all the areas without any trouble. This has one screw holding it on. It's not a big deal, so I just go ahead and unscrew it and move it aside. I'm going to wipe this down because there is some kind of really bad gunk around it and stuff. So just using a Clorox wipe, I'm just getting off all of that, whatever it is. So I grabbed chiffon cream from Rust-Oleum chalked line, and I've had this for a while. I really like this. It's not like a stark white. The cream color is very nice. It's more of a yellow tone, but not so yellow that it looks like dirty. So using a small brush to get into all of those little compartments. This did take me a lot of time. I could have easily went out and spray painted it, but I wasn't really quite sure how that was going to take to it. And I wanted to add some texture to it. So I knew I was going to have to kind of go about it the long way anyway. So I got the first coat on, and then I'm going to dry that with my embossing gun. I grabbed some salt wash and more of that paint, and I'm going to mix that together. I am adding quite a bit of salt wash to this because I do want quite a bit of texture on this, mainly because some of the corners of this, it looks like it's either gotten a little wet, so it kind of started to swell. So I'm kind of trying to hide some of that. Instead of throwing this thing out, I really want to keep it out of the landfill. So, but I want it to look nice as well. So using the salt wash is giving me the look that I want and hiding that swelling, I believe, because it's like compressed type of board. So once I have the bottom painted, I'm gonna reattached the little wheel thing at the bottom, the little Lazy Susan wheel, and that's just so that I can kind of swivel it around as I'm finishing up the painting on the inside of this. So The good thing about having this pretty thick is it's covering really well. It's covering all the cracks really well. I will be like, or say honestly, I dropped it and it kind of came apart at the seams. So before I even started, I had to like glue it all back together. So I decided I wanted to put some paint inlay, so I grabbed Lattice Rose from Iron Orchid. I'm grabbing just this one sheet of these roses and leaves, and really pretty coloring. And I'm just gonna kind of measure out and trace the size of this little caddy to make sure that I have the right size cut for the spaces that I need it for. So just using a pencil, tracing around, and then some scissors and cutting it to the shape that I need. And it's easier for me this way to cut it down if I need to, and just kind of alter that shape a little at a time. So I'm going to start applying those inlays. I put down a really good healthy coat of paint. I wet that inlay a little bit. I position it into place, and then mist it again and press it down with a damp paper towel. I did the bigger sides first, and then I dried those, and then before I took those off, I went ahead and did the smaller sides. Just the same process, putting down a heavy coat of paint, misting that inlay, and then applying that to the paint, and then misting again and pressing it down with a damp paper towel. Once I have both of those smaller sides applied, I just go ahead and use my embossing gun to dry everything out. And then once it's all dry, you're going to wet it up again just so that you can remove those inlay carrier sheets. You can put those aside for another use at a different time. I think you can get 2 or 3 uses out of one sheet there. This came out, the inlays came out really well. I have a lot of texture on there, and it shows, you can see it when it's up close, but it just, even though still came out beautifully. So I want to seal those inlays on there. So I'm using um, a top coat from DIY, and I'm just going to apply that all over that caddy. I'm going to dry that with my embossing gun, and once that's dry, then I grab a little bit of this DIY golden rule wax, and I'm not going ham with this. I'm putting a very light coat over the edges of this caddy. And that's how that came out. I like this little caddy. It swivels around. Here I merged it with just some letter writing stuff. It's small enough that you can kind of drag it around with you, put it on your desk, take it out to the patio with you. And the colors on it remind me of spring or a really great Mother's Day gift or anything like that. Okay, so these square canisters, wow, I hated these things. I got them from the Goodwill so long ago, and they have just been on the floor. And this is what they originally looked like when I got them. And you can see I painted them black with the Bear spray paint and then left them for dead. So I decided that I was going to deal with it and stop avoiding it. So I'm going to take the handles off of these wood lids and wipe them down. You can see when I took that one off, it kind of took out a chunk of that wood, but we'll deal with that a little bit later. So I'm going to wipe all the dirt and dust and everything else off of this with just a Clorox wipe. And then I'm going to dry that with a towel, just so that it doesn't leave any kind of lint or anything on there, because this does have some texture from that spray paint. It was kind of grabbing some lint off of those wipes. So once I have that all done, I'm going to grab Amy Howard's One Step Paint in black, and you saw me use this last week. I really like it. I think the finish on it is amazing. It's self-leveling. It's easy to paint with. It spreads really well and dries really well. So I'm doing a good coat over the bottom first, and then I'm going to dry that with my embossing gun. I'm going to set those aside now and deal with the lids. So I found these little knobs that are off of a different project, and I'm just going to remove the metal part off of the two that have them. I'm going to sand them because they had like some glue or something, so I just want to even them out. I'm going to use this JB Weld. I have used this before and I complained about the smell on it. This time it didn't seem like it really smelled that bad to me, so I don't know if I was going through something then and I was just sensitive to it, but I felt like when you're dealing with knobs and things like that that are going to get handled quite a bit more, then you want something a little bit hardier than glue. So I use the epoxies, two-part, mix it, and then set your project up. I'm going to go back and I'm going to let that epoxy dry, and it dries fairly fast. I'd say within like maybe 30 minutes, it was pretty sturdy. So I'm just going to do a coat of this paint on these lids. I do two coats for each, top and bottom, and over the knob as well. I'm using this cup to kind of adjust for that knob there so I can turn it over and paint the bottoms of those. And I do, like I said, two coats on these just to make sure that they're completely black. I'm going to grab my Saint Germain again because this seems to be my favorite for the time being. And I'm going to grab a couple of pieces that I really like. And I will say I grabbed doubles of each of these designs because I did front and back. I left the sides blank, just black, but I did do the same design on the front as well as the back. So I have a small, medium, and large, so I just picked out a design that fit well on each of those sizes. Once I have those applied, I'm going to grab the Amy Howard's matte sealer. Again, I really love this sealer. I used it on the tote that I did last week and it came out gorgeous. Dries down really matte and really well. So I'm just doing a really good coat on the bottom. I did coat these canisters twice with the sealant, especially over the transfers because I wanted to make sure that those were not going to get damaged in any way, or if they did, you were going to have to work really hard to do it. So here is the first coat, and then I also do the first coat on the lids. And then I just dry in between the coats. This does dry down really quickly when you are using like a heat gun embossing gun. I grabbed this plaid liquid leaf in a gold, what is it, classic gold, and I'm just going to do the little tip of this finial on top. I want the canisters to be the star of the show, so I didn't want too much of gold everywhere, kind of distracting from the beauty of those. So I have these little feet that I got off Amazon. I will also link those below. These usually screw on. You can see the holes there, but since these are made out of tin, I can't do that. So I'm going to go back to my JB Weld and use that to apply these feet to the bottoms of the canisters. and using just some tape to hold those in place. I'm going to mix that together, use a popsicle stick, put a fairly good amount on the feet, but not enough that it's going to be oozing out everywhere, making sure that it's going to have good contact with the corner of that canister. So I put that into place, and then again, using just a small piece of tape, I'm going to hold that into place until that epoxy dries. And that's how those turned out. I am astonished. I'm amazed at how beautiful these are, considering they have been the bane of my existence for the past couple of years. They have just moved from my studio to the garage to the storage shed to everything. So I'm just so happy, and they came out beautifully. The black with that Saint Germain transfer is just stunning. So I hope you guys really like my projects. Let me know which one was your favorite. I can bet that it's probably the canisters, because everyone went crazy over the tote last week. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. Head over to my website if you're interested in any of these projects. Some of them may be on sale there. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to go over to my other channel. I upload every Sunday. And for now, I will say see you soon.